Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that, today, many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. And this is what we are faced with, and this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington, in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
I remember when the ATL wasn't banging, now they banging. Niggas throwing sets and them bullets start ringing, bitches banging. I remember when the ATL wasn't banging, now they banging. Niggas throwing sets and them bullets start ringing like bang, 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 bitch, nigga, bang, 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 bang.
So for the generation that is born right after the crisis, we call them the prophet archetype, and that would be, for instance, boomers, but we've had many other examples. Indulgently raised in a very secure era, they come of age during these times of spiritual awakening, a lot of protests, a lot of social divisions, and they break through. They try to, they want to individualize the country. They want to free individuals from the sort of tyranny of the collective. Give a fuck.
Like Tupac, nigga, I don't give a fuck. Everybody wanna ride for it with no car. Make a lot of money, live life like the stars do. If you do what they do, then what kind of king are you? Don't let money change you for the bad. Do what gods do. Everybody say they want power, but they don't really want power. They let the money, hoes, and fame make them a dummy. Money never made me, bitch, I'm making the money. I keep a smile every day, whether rain or sunny. A man bitch a day, wanna she give it 100. A young 5'6" addict who love to get blunted. Off in the bed, I'm the dog, that's right, I'm atomic. Bury the bone in the cat, get back to the money. All the jealousy and lying niggas throwing at each other over crumbs on the cool, it's hard to consider. Some of you niggas to be real, cause you're real bitch made. These days, hell, a whole bit harder than niggas. But I don't give a fuck, never have, never will. Real niggas really scared to tell it like it is. So many heartbreaks, hella blood, sweat, and tears over game. Now this is how I feel, tell them I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. Like Tupac, nigga, I don't give a fuck. Niggas hating on the low, I don't give a fuck. I'ma get more money, more, I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. Like Too Short, nigga, I don't give a fuck. You can fuck my bitch, I don't give a fuck. I can get another one, I'm rich and I don't give a fuck. Tell them I don't give a fuck. Beat it with the microphone, I'm a flame spitter. Was a peacemaker, now a menace like the cane, nigga. Haters and you homo thugs, fucking up the game, nigga. We were never in the same class, you a lame, nigga. I don't got time to be dissing a nigga who ain't worth a penny, cause mentally I'm too above for dissing the fake. On top of that, I'm a player, the player hating that's never been in my blood, nigga. That's ammunition for hate. If I call up the cavalry, it'll be a fatality. One phone call, they'll be minutes away. Better make peace with your creator, cause on the cool, I don't think you wanna perish a cent of the day. Money on the mind, vision on the prize. Look into my eyes, you will see the devil is a lie. Real warriors of God live eternally, and if you know the definition, baby, I will never die. Finally got the key of life. If you listen to my new shit, I got the blueprint to set the street afire. The majority of niggas in the game ain't fucking with the method of business that we apply. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. Like Tupac, nigga, I don't give a fuck. Niggas hating on the low, I don't give a fuck. flame spitter. Haters and you homo thugs, fucking off the game, nigga. You a lame nigga. Give a fuck, 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 give a fuck. Give a fuck, I don't give a fuck, I don't give a fuck, give a fuck. Give a fuck. You can fuck my bitch, I don't give a fuck. I can get another one, I'm rich and I don't give a fuck. Tell them I don't give a fuck, give a fuck.
Red alert. All hands stand to battle stations.
Warning. Warning. Nigga babble detected. System overload. Warning. Warning. Nigga babble detected. System overload.
You talking choppers, you getting right. You wanna blow with the dope every night.
Said he wanted subscribe, so we took him on life.
Say you wanna get paid, you wanna be right.
He team 4K got slapped with
Walking out,
pipe.
still got on these shades, even though it ain't night. Cause they little pink pills too hard. Let's go on a SRT with a Draco tight. Got a little boy way, can't sleep at night.
You gotta go get your motherfucking dope. You gotta run, say fuck out that hoe. I was just broken, I didn't have a friend, so I went in the trap and I sold me some dope.
Let's
for
go.
real.
Poppin' purse, make her suck dick for an hour, get to work. I told the bitch to get nasty for double. She bought her best friend, they for each other. Okay, for me, make her fuck my brother. Got a team full of players, free band, no struggle.
Big 4K down to the door.
Might get in there, mo, go dig with shovel. Break out the chopstick, hit on wherever. Broad daylight, bitch, I'ma get on wherever. Let's go, double O walk on this bitch, but I like to talk on this bitch.
Hold on.
Percocet walk on this bitch, the Percocet talk on this bitch.
Hold on.
I just be geeking out drugs, taking all kinds of shit. Bitch wanna fuck, she fine, he see all kind of bitch.
Running through the zone, don't care about shit. I can work one time, though. Rich little man got shot, you slap, little boy, you a bitch. 15 ball, one plate on me. 15
What about now? What about okay? There I go. Okay. Wanted to come on really quick. I don't know how quick I'm gonna be able to be, but wanted to come on real quick. Do some reading on Justice Thomas' Dissent. That's the one I'm the most interested in. Anyway, we're gonna take a look at it. I've been skimming over it the past couple of minutes or so before I went live. He got some pages on here, but you know, we're gonna try to not necessarily summarize because I'm gonna thoroughly read it, but we're gonna try to get through it as quickly as possible. I might end up skipping a few depending on what I prioritize as important. But I'm gonna share the screen. I'm gonna try to blow it up just a little bit here so everybody can see it. Let me see how that look on okay, that's good enough. It ain't like nobody go damn read it anyway. So it is what it is. Ricardo says very interesting read. So have you been able to skim over it already, Ricardo? Because like I said, I'm going in it blind. I haven't had an opportunity to look at it at all. So, but we finna look at it now though. That's for damn sure. We finna look at it now, and I wanted to start here at Justice Clarence Thomas, because I was very interested to see what he had to say about this. Y'all know how I feel about Justice Thomas. You know, say what you want about the man. You know, call him whatever coons and all that shit that you want. That's fine. You know, in a couple of these decisions that's been put forth, honestly, you know, going back even to Biden, I think he done dropped some gems that we could take lessons from. You know what I'm saying? Whether they be in our favor or not. I'm just talking about in the words themselves when it comes to his opinion. That's all I'm talking about. You know, leave all the other shit to what you will. That ain't. I'm not here to discuss, debate, or you know, confirm any of it. That's just what the fuck it is. We all individuals at the end of the day. I ain't scouring looking for, you know, confirmation bias and all that other shit. But let's get into it, man. Like I said, and I'm not gonna quote the citations. I really don't need to do that. I just want to read what he got to say. You know what I'm saying? And you know, this starts with Thomas's dissenting opinion, right? And for, you know, for the record, this case is Donald J. Trump, President of the United States, petitioners versus Barbara. You know, just for a reference on what the actual case was. But it says Justice Thomas, with whom Justice Gorsuch joins dissenting, this court's decision in Dred Scott v. Sanford would have permanently denied citizenship to blacks. I want y'all to remember every time black come up. Y'all know how I feel about black too, but we're going to get into that as we move along in the opinion. So starting over, this court, damn, I got distracted. This court's decision in Dred Scott versus Sanford would have permanently denied citizenship to blacks as a subordinate and inferior class after the Civil War. Okay, he stopped. Okay, it's because it's got all these damn citations in there. It's fucking me up. But after the Civil War, the Reconstruction Congress overruled Dred Scott. First with the Civil Rights Act of 1866, then with the Citizenship Clause of the 14th Amendment. Both the Civil Rights Act and the Citizenship Clause guaranteed citizenship to persons born and domiciled, keyword, in the United States regardless of their race. Neither guaranteed citizenship to persons who were not domiciled in the United States. Blacks were entitled to citizenship because they were Americans, point blank, period. Now that's a fact. They had no other homeland, owed no allegiance to any other foreign power, and were subject to no other authority. They fought and bled in the same battles, gained and glory in the same victories, and were liable to be called upon to defend America in time of war, alongside every other citizen. To life and writings of Frederick Douglass, that's a cite, the Citizenship Clause thus guaranteed them the dignity and glory of American citizenship, so as to ensure that they would never be treated as second class under the law. Then he cite Plessy versus Ferguson and the dissenting opinion in Plessy versus Ferguson with Justice Harlan, who later resigned in the court. The same could not be said for the children of foreign temporary visitors. Foreign temporary visitors were attached to their home country, lacked similar bonds to this country, and would not be called upon in time of war. Americans, consistent with their settler ethos, believed that citizens were the people who called a place home. Accordingly, domicile, a person's legal home, played a key role in both state and national citizenship in America. A person was a citizen of the state where he had his domicile. That's in Barber versus Barber, another citation. When foreigners temporarily visited, their national character was unchanged. Such visitors were strangers, not subjects. A person born here but domiciled in a foreign land was therefore considered as much a stranger to the country as his father. Okay, that's a site, that's a source. That is why when Dred Scott went to court, he argued that to be a citizen, it is only necessary that he should have acquired a domicile. Where's the source? After this court held that Scott was not a citizen because he was black, Republicans in Congress, such as Representative John Bingham, stated that a person was a citizen if he was born and domiciled in the United States. Scott was a citizen in their view because he was born to Americans, not to temporary sojourners. As Frederick Douglass had put it, the freedmen sought citizenship not as aliens nor as exiles, but as Americans. Congress implemented the principle that citizenship follows birth and domicile in the Civil Rights Act of 1866 and then in the Citizenship Clause of the 14th Amendment. The Civil Rights Act guaranteed citizenship to persons who were both born in the United States and as relevant here, not subject to any foreign power. The phrase "not subject to any foreign power" excluded from citizenship children of foreign temporary visitors who were subject to the power of their home nation. The Citizenship Clause, which was the same Congress passed shortly after the Civil Rights Act, was understood to have the same meaning. It guaranteed citizenship to persons who were both born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Now, let me stop right there for a minute. And this is where it gets tricky on what Justice Thomas is trying to argue. This is where the shit get tricky. In the Civil Rights Act 1866, the language changes a little bit. To talk about not subject to any foreign power. In my opinion, this is my view. In my opinion, those are very distinct things. When you're subject to a foreign power, that means your allegiance is solely in the hands of your home government. Now, how can you do that when you're in a foreign country? How? How can you do it? Allegiance is different from jurisdiction. It just is. Ricardo could tell you he's a naturalized citizen. Ricardo can tell you when you declare your citizenship here in the United States, it clearly says in the vow that you denounce any allegiance to a foreign power. It clearly says that. But anybody that steps foot on United States soil, except for foreign dignitaries and family of foreign dignitaries, are subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, meaning you're subject to the laws, statutes, and codes of the United States of America. If you come here and you steal, you will get arrested because you're subject to that jurisdiction. That's just a fact. So in that regard, I can't agree with Justice Thomas. Because being subject to a foreign power is very different from being subject to a jurisdiction of a government. That's just a fact. Everybody is subject to the jurisdiction of the United States of America, whether you're legal or not. You break a law, the government, whether it's local, state, or federal, will seek justice for the breaking of said law. That's a fact. So in that regard, I don't agree with Justice Thomas. I got to be honest. But let's continue. And he's going to explain it, looks like, in the next paragraph. A person was subject to the jurisdiction of the government of his domicile. Domicile was the foundation of jurisdiction over persons. Again, he uses source Law and Nations, 1861. That's not really true. Anybody, any and everybody, as long as they're not any type of ambassador to another nation, is subject to the jurisdiction of the government. I don't believe that you just have to have domicile in order to facilitate that caveat. But we'll continue. The government of a person's domicile had broad power over that person, including with respect to his personal affairs, his conduct abroad, his personal taxes, and the mutual duties of protection and allegiance. So as the senator who introduced the Citizenship Clause, I think he's about to get into trouble. So as the senator who introduced the Citizenship Clause explained, the word jurisdiction, as here employed, ought to be construed so as to imply a full and complete jurisdiction, the same jurisdiction in extent and quality as applies to every citizen of the United States now. He cited Senator Howard, who was also a framer of the 14th Amendment. After all, Congress would have no right to make citizens of persons temporarily resident. Now that's cited Senator Trumbull. Now, this I agree with. Now he's getting into what the actual framers of the 14th Amendment were discussing at the time on the Senate floor. I ain't heard nobody talk about this. Nobody has said anything about this shit. Why are we not going to the original thought processes of the actual framers of the amendment? Justice Thomas just did that. That part I agree with. And so if we're going to look at the originality of what the intent of the 14th Amendment was about, if we're going to look at what the intent of the 14th Amendment was about, the framers of the 14th Amendment are giving the reasoning behind what they were talking about. And this is what I tried to explain in a video I did almost 2 years ago, playing devil's advocate as it pertains to the 14th Amendment and Citizenship Clause. I don't agree necessarily with the premise of that, foreign power and jurisdiction are synonymous. I don't agree with that aspect. And based on what Thomas just cited with Senator Howard and Senator Trumbull, I don't think that they make that distinction. I understand that they see similarities as far as domicile and being born in the United States. I'm not disputing that. But it's a clear distinction. Because at the end of the day, we're talking about allegiance versus common practice of law as being on the soil itself. If that make any sense. But let's continue. The Citizenship Clause was consistently interpreted not to apply to the children of foreign temporary visitors, who were by definition not domiciled in the United States. Regardless of administration or party, the federal government for decades after ratification regularly denied claims to citizenship by children who were born in the United States, not domiciled here. When a child was born in the United States to parents domiciled abroad, he was not therefore under the statute and the Constitution a citizen in the United States by birth. Then he cites a letter. Scholars agree a child born with within the territory of the United States of alien parents was not a citizen unless his parents were permanently domiciled within the United States. Now that's important, and that's the foundation of Thomas's argument here, because that same conversation was had in those Senate debates on the Senate floor in 1866 with Senator Howard and Senator Trumbull of Ohio about aliens, an invading party, and et cetera, et cetera. Those arguments were had. And that's what Justice Thomas is talking about here. That's just a fact. This court agreed. The Citizenship Clause excluded from its operation children of citizens or subjects of foreign states born within the United States. He's talking about the slaughterhouse cases now. I broke the slaughterhouse cases down in that video as well. I wish I had so I could put the link in so everybody can go check out that video, but I ain't got time to look for it right now. Congress agreed the Citizenship Clause did not extend to a child born here but subject to any foreign power. As Justice Harlan would rewrite in his dissent in Plessy versus Ferguson, the Citizenship Clause gave citizenship to all born or naturalized in the United States and residing here. The court offered a different account. American citizenship, the court says, was based on a medieval English feudal principle. I think you're about to get into just so Lee and all of that. According to which each person owed personal service to the lord of the soil and his master, a perpetual servitude that was born with the child and only ended in the grave. Americans, the court said, adopted this feudal principle as a rule of American citizenship with little fanfare. Then, according to the court, the Reconstruction Congress codified that feudal principle with the words not subject to any foreign power in the Civil Rights Act and subject to the jurisdiction thereof in the Citizenship Clause. Again, I don't agree correlating the two. I just don't. I don't agree with it. Subject to the foreign power is distinct. It's distinct. If you come from another country on vacation to the United States, you're still subject to the a foreign power, which is your place of origin where you have citizenship. But also, you're subject to the jurisdiction of the United States of America through its laws, statutes, and codes. You still, like, you can't break the law. You can't do it. You're subject to that jurisdiction. I disagree with Justice Thomas on this, because the two are not synonymous. I don't understand his argument of trying to make the two synonymous, because they're not. And I don't think that's what the framers of the 14th Amendment were doing. I just don't. Subject to a foreign power is distinct. Subject to the jurisdiction thereof is distinct. You cannot break the law in this country if you're coming from somewhere else. I don't know, like where that's coming from. What makes a person subject to the jurisdiction? It's as simple as that. You know, first we have to break down what those two distinctions are before we can move forward another step. That's just a fact. If I go to another country and I break the law and I get caught breaking said law, I'm going to be held accountable from the jurisdiction of where the fuck I'm at. I got the hiccup. Let me get a drink of water real quick. I mean, that's just a fact. So I don't even agree with the argument that's being made by Thomas, on its face with the distinction. But we're going to continue on. Then the court says the clause's meaning was definitively settled by dicta in United States versus Juan King Martin. And that's my fucking problem right there. It was so much emphasis put on the Juan Kim Art case of 1898 that we lost sight of the intent on what was trying to get pushed forward by the executive order with Trump, because Trump is a dumbass at the end of the day. If he would have appointed me, I would have put forth more of a compelling argument than the Solicitor General did in oral arguments. I'm not a fucking lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. John Sauer, I believe his name is. They put so much emphasis on the Juan Kim Art case. The reason why I believe they did it, because they understood Juan Kim Art was going to be the precedent in the case broadly, overall. But you shouldn't have been fighting Juan Kim Art. Hell, in my opinion, you shouldn't have been fighting birthright citizenship at all. Because we're not talking about constitutionality here. We're talking about legality. What the fuck is legal and what's not? Not what's constitutional and what's not. Like I said earlier in my live, you actually could have used the citizenship clause to your advantage by simply saying, hey, look, yes, everybody is subject to the jurisdiction of the United States of America. Being part of that jurisdiction is meaning you can't break the law. Being an illegal alien in this country clearly breaks the law. But it wasn't argued that way. Sauer continued to push and push and push a difference between illegal aliens and temporary protective status versus domicile with Juan Kim Martin. He should have never did that because he put a spotlight on this case. But let me continue. With due respect, the court's account is not historically accurate. The court says that the citizenship clause incorporated the English feudal principle that subjects owed lifetime servitude to the king who owned the soil on which they were born. But Americans, unsurprisingly, rejected this feudal principle. The court's theory of American citizenship is based on the opinion of a New York assistant vice chancellor in an inheritance dispute called Lynch versus Clark. But the assistant vice chancellor's reasoning, whatever it was worth, was not even followed in New York by the time of the citizenship clause. Finally, the court reasons that dicta in Juan Kim Art settled the meaning, dicta meaning basically precedent. And Juan Kim Art settled the meaning of the clause. But Juan Kim Art itself emphasized that its holding was limited to persons domicile. And that's what I'm talking about. He's making a good point, because for people that are not familiar with the Juan Kim Art case, Juan Kim Art's parents were legally domiciled in California. They weren't breaking the law at all. So if we go to the introduction of what Clarence Thomas was talking about, yes, he makes a clear distinction with the case in and of itself. Juan Kim Art's parents were legally domiciled in, I believe it was San Francisco, legally domiciled in the United States. Juan Kim Art was born in San Francisco. He left to go to China to go visit family or whatever the fuck he was doing, came back. And when he got to the dock, they told him, hey, look, man, you can't come in here. You're not a United States citizen. Remember the time, we talking about 1898. There was no immigration law at that time. He was denied entry. Juan Kim Mark said, hey, look, man, I was born up the street. I was born in California. I'm a U.S. citizen. He brought the case before the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court, in fact, cited the Citizenship Clause of the 14th Amendment, saying that, yes, he was born here and he is domiciled, his parents, legally, in the United States. Therefore, he is a United States citizen. No question about that. No question at all. But it's based on legality. It's not based on what y'all perceive the letter of the law is. The letter of the law is the letter of the law. It's clear. Any person born or naturalized and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are therefore United States citizens. Paraphrase. It's quite clear what it says. But what about legality? Nobody's bringing that up, and I don't understand why. Juan Kim Mark's parents were legal. Let's continue. The court's theory of American citizenship is based on an opinion. Okay, I already read all that. Okay, finally, the court's reasons that it settled. I already read that. Juan Kim Mark itself emphasized that his holdings was limited to persons domiciled in the United States. And scholars and government officials continue to agree after Juan Kim Art that the Citizenship Clause did not extend to the children of foreign temporary visitors. The rule remained what it always was: a child born on American soil of a stranger or traveler passing through the country or temporarily residing here was not a citizen. Then he cites a handbook in Constitutional Law 1910. The court today takes the extraordinary step of holding facially unconstitutional the president's order excluding from citizenship the children of foreign temporary visitors and illegal aliens. In doing so, the court adds to the sad history of the 14th Amendment, which was designed and understood to secure equal rights for the freed blacks, but has instead been repurposed for political projects that the Reconstruction Congress did not support. But many potential applications of the president's order are consistent with the original public meaning of the Citizenship Clause. I respectfully dissent. Now, here's something else that I have I take issue with in terms of what Clarence Thomas is saying. There is no specificity when it comes to the Constitution. The only time where you had specificity is where like you were like pretty much forced to have specificity. And that was in the 19th Amendment, giving women the right to vote. Like it wasn't really and hell, to be honest with you, I don't even agree with that. I agree the language should have been different. Because in a way, it contradicts. It contradicts discrimination. But tomato, tomato. You know what I'm saying? But the only time that you can cite specificity in the Constitution is with the 19th Amendment. That's it. So, for him to say that the 14th Amendment, the Citizenship Clause of the 14th Amendment were specifically for American freedmen. I mean, yes and no. You know what I'm saying? Yes, it was framed because of a cause. The cause being solidifying citizenship for the newly freed or emancipated. Yeah, of course. But the effects are to never see an atrocity happen like that again. That's why it says any person. But there are caveats to it. It's stipulations. Any person born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. What does that mean? What does that mean? An illegal alien is, in fact, subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. That's why you can classify them as illegal, because they broke a law under the jurisdiction of the United States. I mean, it can't get no simpler than that. It just can't. Juan Kim Ark's family did not break a law, nor did Juan Kim Ark. Per the Citizenship Clause of the 14th Amendment, they were permanently domiciled in the United States. They weren't going nowhere. I mean, it's as clear as that. The paperwork was in order in Juan Kim Ark's case. It was open and shut. So why are we using that as a reference point? Yes, it's a precedent for citizenship, birthright, of course. That's why it should never have been about the Citizenship Clause. It should have always been about legality. If your status is TPS in the United States, the T is the most important part, temporary. Meaning your citizenship is in lingo until further litigation. I blame the system itself. But again, Trump is a dumbass. He wants to inject his base with quick-acting drugs and not have a solution. That's why this whole shit happened. Instead of fixing the problem, which would have been legislation that was going to bolster border security and immigration as a whole, meaning more immigration judges, better security at the border, a more facilitated means for people to get citizenship quickly or deny, whichever one. We wouldn't have this fucking problem. Biden tried to do it, even though late. At least he tried to do it. But because Trump knew he was going to lose cool points if that legislation passed, he got the dumbasses in the House to let the bill die on the floor. Do y'all see where I'm going? Do you see where I'm going? Oh. I begin with early American practices related to citizenship and nationality, which inform what the Citizenship Clause means. In America, you were generally a citizen if you were born here and this was your home. The legal word for home was domicile. The concepts were so linked as to be taken as effectively synonymous at times, such that Justice Bushward Washington could say, citing the source, the same correspondence has persisted throughout American history. Citizens were not the people who were temporarily passing through a territory or who happened to be born within it. Citizens were the permanent members of the body politique, the people whose roots were in a place, who called that place home, and who would, if necessary, go to war for that place. The law of both state and national citizenship reflected this principle. Domicile was critical for state citizenship. As Chief Justice Marshall explained, a person was a citizen of that state in which he has a fixed and permanent domicile. A lot of citing of sources here. Case study. Damn, it's a lot of temporary visitors. It followed were not citizens. When a person went to a new state on a mere temporary visit for a transient purpose, just as Story explained, he could not thereby claim to be a citizen of such state. Instead, to become a citizen of the state to which he removes, someone had to show that he had domicile there. The same rule remains in place today. As a general matter, an individual is deemed a citizen of the state of his domicile. Then he cited a source with Wachovia Bank in 2006. Domicile was also critical for national citizenship. As this court stated the rule, when a person acquires a domicile in a nation, he becomes a member of the new society, at least as a permanent inhabitant. Domicile played a role in determining someone's national character, which would change whenever he removes to a foreign country and settles himself there with an intention permanently to reside there. He was a subject of the nation where he was domiciled. He followed the character of that country in war as well as in peace. All that is applied. Thus, the view of the executive branch was that when a person acquires an American domicile, the law enjoins upon other nations to respect him in regard to protection as an American citizen. It does not allow anyone who has a domicile to decline the national character thus conferred. His status remains as long as the domicile is retained and is changed with it. This approach was consistent with this country's settler ethos. Daniel Webster wrote that no government has carried the general presumption further than the United States that a person attains a new national character when he settles and intends permanently to reside in a nation. Although some nations would lay claim to anyone born in their land or any descendant of their citizens, America viewed its people as the people who built their lives here. A person domiciled here pays the same price for his protection as native-born or naturalized citizens pay for theirs. In war, he shares equally with them in the calamities which may befall the country. His services may be required for its defense, and his life may be periled and sacrificed in maintaining its rights and vindicating its honor. The United States thus did not claim as a citizen every child born on its soil. Instead, pursuant to the principle that children follow their parents' domicile, that's important. A child was a citizen of the place where his parents were domiciled. A child born of foreign parents is not, on principles of natural reason, necessarily to be considered as a citizen of the country where he was born. If he was born in the country, but both his parents were strangers not designing a permanent change of country, then he was as much a stranger to the country as his father. The rule was that when a subject is traveling or sojourning abroad, he continues under the protection of his home nation. So his children are an exception to the rule, which makes the place of birth the test of citizenship. Then he cites another source. This is 1860. Where is the all of that is the source. And even in this source, check this out. He's citing a definition in one of these cases. It's either the Ludlam or it's the Hardy de Leon. A child born on American soil to parents domiciled in the then Republic of Texas was a citizen of Texas. That's a fact. Citizenship requires domicile and excludes children of transient aliens. Like, this stuff is important. This stuff is important. So even though some of the things that and again is mostly accounted with the correlation between subject to the jurisdiction and subject to a foreign power. I don't believe those two coexist. I just don't. I just don't. Being subject to a foreign power doesn't supersede or coalesce with being subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. No matter what, if you on United States soil, you subject to the laws of the United States, unless you're a foreign dignitary. Being subject to a foreign power ain't got shit to do with that. It just ain't got nothing to do with it. So in that regard, I disagree with Clarence Thomas. But everything else that he's been saying thus far is spot on. In Justice Thomas' dissent, he's basically talking legality. That's basically what he's talking about. And I agree with it 100%. But the argument from Solicitor General Sauer didn't put emphasis on legality. It put emphasis on constitutionality. And you should never put emphasis on interpretation of the Constitution. That's foolish. The Constitution say what it say, buddy. It say what it say. So when I tell you Clarence Thomas give people a lot of gems in a lot of his written opinions, he just do. Despite what you may think of Clarence Thomas, bro, he gives you the game, is what I'm trying to tell you. He gives you the game. Solicitor General Sauer's points should have been hitting the notes of the actual framers of the 14th Amendment. He should have been hitting it. And he wasn't. He just wasn't. You know, Clarence Thomas continues to go on and to talk about domicile versus transient aliens and all of that shit. Let's read this little paragraph here. Of course, birthplace is closely correlated with domicile. Most children were born where their parents were domiciled and where, as a result, they were domiciled. The correlation was especially strong in the early 19th century, when crossing an ocean for a temporary visit was an unappealing prospect for pregnant women, because birthplace was often a heuristic for domicile. It could be generally stated that children were citizens of their place of birth. But when the specific question arose, a reasonable qualification to that general statement except the children of parents who were damn, is that a fucking Latin word? Initiatir in the country? Initiary? I don't fucking know. Or abiding there for temporary purpose. The law of domicile is essential to understanding the citizenship provisions of the Civil Rights Act and the 14th Amendment. So I briefly explain the relevant parts of the law of domicile here. Then he gets into like some technical shit about domicile. So it looks like his overall premise in his dissent is putting an emphasis on domicile. You know what I'm saying? That's what it's doing. What is that? Domiciled here. Only one. Yeah, he's talking. Yeah, it looked like his premise talking about domicile, which I don't really want to like get into. You know, and a lot of the sources that he's using, you know, they kind of outdated because people have different domiciles in different countries today. You know, people have dual citizenship. They have homes in other countries. So I mean, you know, that you using that logic is kind of outdated in my opinion. Just using that logic is kind of outdated in my opinion. I don't think it's relevant to talk about domicile, but it looks like that's what he's doing in his opinion. Like I said, at the end of the day, my opinion is that it should have been more of an emphasis on the legality of the parents in totality. It should have been a more of an emphasis on that. That's just my opinion. You know, if you come at it from that angle, the whole child thing cares of itself. Because then what you say then, okay, the parents are illegal. They're subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. What of the issue of the child? Is the child now a ward of the fucking state? You know what I'm saying? Of course not. The child is going to naturally go with the custodian, with the parent. That's just natural occurrence. So it's almost as if we're making exceptions because of the 14th Amendment dealing with the child. So is it right now? Because based on the citizenship clause of the 14th Amendment, this child has birthright citizenship. So by default, we're going to make the parents citizens through naturalization. The shit don't work like that. It just don't work like that. And if that's the case, then we got a whole nother can of worms, because now you got a whole bunch of children of immigrants that the state got to take care of because you done got rid of the parent, which you have every legal right to do so. So we got to tackle the argument from a common sense standpoint. Constitutionality should have never been a focal point of this argument. Never. It always should have been based on, and like I said, this is me playing devil's advocate. I'm not one of these damn America First MAGA maniacs that's saying get rid of all the immigrants. That's not me. I am saying we need common sense, swift immigration reform. I am saying that in regards to how we process immigrants, how we rule against or in favor of status of certain immigrants. We need all that shit need to be overhauled. All of that shit. Because it's too slow. And now we have a problem of an entire generation of people that are now stuck in limbo and bringing up questions of legality when it comes to our immigration system. That's where I'm at with it. That's where I'm at with it. All the other shit is inconsequential to me. It's just inconsequential. And he's going on and on about domicile, and I don't understand why. I don't think that's it. That's the important part of the discussion. Like he's saying, third, domicile determined which government had the power to impose personal taxes on a person. But again, like all of that stuff is minuscule to the argument as a whole. Subject to the jurisdiction is first of all, you got to, yes, tax is law, but illegal immigrants, well, let me not say illegal immigrants, they not, but temporary protected status people are being taxed. So that killed that argument. It killed that argument. And the whole thing about people that's under TPS, I don't even agree with that shit as a whole. Because there's an argument to be had that people under TPS are still legal. Technically. Technically, they are. But you under a status of being in limbo. And you shouldn't have to be in that status for very long. You shouldn't have to be. It's not fair to the government, and it's not fair to the person. Because they should be able to reap the full benefits of being a permanent citizen, or they should be denied through the courts. Either or. But we got to pick one. You can't just have them in limbo forever. You can't do that. Because like I said, the Haitians in Ohio that's under temporary protective status, they got jobs. They get taxed, but they're not afforded full rights as citizens. That's not fair to the populace of Springfield, Ohio, when it comes to numbers and census and voting. And it's not fair to that person because they're not afforded those rights. So do something about it. Either put forth judges that can do swift immigration reviews, or give them citizenship outright. Either one. We're going toward the end of year 2 of Trump. Like, do something. Executive orders ain't it. People think executive orders are it, are dumbasses. It should be sweeping legislation on the Republican side of Congress the moment Trump got in office. But it's not. Why? Because he knows a lot of the shit is going to affect a lot of the people in these districts. And some of these Republican congressmen, both in the House and the Senate, are going to be weary of passing laws that's going to negatively affect their districts and their state. That's why. That's why. They don't got the votes, just like John Thune fucking said. So we're trying to bypass Congress and the legislative branch and try to let the Supreme Court handle it. But even the Supreme Court, for the most part at least, are giving them pushback too. Because he or nobody in his administration is smart enough to come up with a concrete plan. That's why he should have appointed the political prophet amongst men. And maybe he would get some shit done. And I'm not even with the MAGA maniac shit. But at least I'm willing to advance the country forward. I don't care which president in office. He just didn't do it. If he would have appointed me as Solicitor General, I wouldn't have went before the Supreme Court without an ironclad argument in the for the position of the federal government. I wouldn't have did it. Nor would I have challenged the citizenship clause because it's unchallengeable. The letter of the law is ironclad. What I would have challenged is the legality of the people versus the child that was, yes, in fact, born here in these United States of America. Are the protections of the child tied to the protections of the parents? You got to ask yourself that question as well. Plenty case study, plenty sources you could cite on that subject as well. The reason I know that because Justice Thomas just did it. And again, I don't even agree with the emphasis on domicile. That ain't got shit to do with it. Everybody, and I'm gonna keep saying it so I can hammer it into y'all head. Everybody that steps foot on these United States soil is subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Because you're subject to the laws, statutes, and state code of the United States. I don't give a fuck where you from. Why you're here, I don't care. You cannot break the law in the United States. Just because you're from somewhere else. It don't work like that. The parents of these children that were born here broke the law. They are subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Meaning they're subject to the consequences of their actions. One of those consequences are, and not limited to, deportation. I'm talking about just the illegal ones. I ain't talking about TPS. That's an entirely different matter. I'm talking about the illegal aliens. Well, what of the children? Well, You only got two choices. Either the children become ward of the state, or based on the natural law of custodialship, they go along with them. I'm not taking birthright citizenship away from those children. The letter of the law is the letter of the law. If we're going to use precedent on Warren Kill Mark, everybody else fucking did it. Precedent is important. But again, unless you're willing to open a whole nother can of worms, you know what I'm saying? You know, that's a separate issue. Many would argue because of the law, the natural law of custodialship, they would naturally go with the parent. Naturally. But that's a whole nother argument to be had. This case should have never been brought before the court. Never. Not in this capacity. It shouldn't have. I've been saying this since the executive order came down on the very first day Trump was inaugurated. First of all, because it got put down in bad faith. First of all. Second of all, it just didn't make sense. Didn't make sense. It's MAGA maniac shit. That's all it is. It's MAGA maniac shit. And it's as simple as that. Like I said, you know, Justice Thomas continues to go on. Let's read this little part. When Dred Scott sued for his freedom, he claimed to be a citizen of Missouri, the state of his domicile. Scott, a black man held in slavery, sued in the federal court, which could hear the case only if it was between citizens of different states. Scott argued that he was a citizen of Missouri and that the defendant, Sanford, was a citizen of New York. Scott, though, was not born in Missouri. He was born in Virginia but domiciled in Missouri. Another source. He alleged that he was a Missouri citizen because he and his family were brought there in 1838. There they had ever since resided. He argued that the term citizen described persons identified with the communities where they reside. In response to the argument that blacks could not vote and therefore were not citizens, Scott explained that a person need not have acquired all these rights. It is only necessary that he should have acquired a domicile to enable him to sue as a citizen, which was in fact true because he was before the Supreme Court testifying his case. So, I mean, he was right. Scott argued in terms that would have been familiar at the time, means nothing but residence. Nobody disagreed with the premise that Scott was domiciled in Missouri. Black slaves and freedmen alike were unambiguously Americans. They were not foreigners. They were not aliens. They owed no foreign allegiance. It was damn. I'm fucking tired. Let me sound it out. It was the dissimilarity of American blacks to foreigners that Frederick Douglass emphasized in his call of recognizing the citizenship of blacks. We address you not as aliens nor as exiles, humbly asking to be permitted to dwell among you in peace. Instead, we are Americans. So speaking the same language and being of the same religion, worshiping the same God, owing our redemption to the same Savior, and learning our duties from the same Bible. Douglas reasoned, we shall not be treated as barbarians. American blacks were liable to perform all duties and support all obligations of citizens who were domiciled in the United States. Again, so like I said, it's a running theme on what Clarence Thomas is prefacing here. He's making the argument of domicile is the most important thing. But again, that's a slippery slope because it's a lot of illegal aliens and citizens and TPS immigrants that technically are domiciled. They live in places, they pay taxes. They ain't living outside. They just ain't, you know what I'm saying? So I think overall I think that's a bad argument. I understand where he's going, what he's trying to do. But the precedent in his case study is not applicable in 2026. This is not. It's just not. Illegal aliens rent houses and apartments and all type of shit. You know what I'm saying? Now you got a point when it comes to like taxes. You actually got a point there. We know as an illegal alien, they technically can't pay taxes because there's no record of them. You know what I'm saying? So they can't pay, but TPS is a record of them. They pay tax. They got temporary Social Security cards, and the government keep track of their income and all type of shit. So that's not applicable when it comes to TPS immigrants. It's not. So his argument is, I ain't gonna say it don't make sense. I'm just gonna say it's outdated. It's outdated. So I mean, some of the chatter I heard today with people saying, Justice Thomas was fighting for I'm gonna say it because they said it, FBA. I mean, I don't see that. You know what I'm saying? But I do see him making an argument through a case study of the principle of the law of domicile. But again, I just don't think that that's a reasonable argument to make in the here and now. I don't think it. When he talks about all persons born in the state and residing within it, except the children of transient aliens, I think that should have been the preface of the whole argument. And then make the body of the dissent from there, not domicile. Because there's plenty of references on what the framers of the 14th Amendment said about aliens. Plenty of reference. And then you follow that up with the citizenship clause saying, hey, look, When you're born, you're automatically subject to the jurisdiction of the United States because you're in it. The parents are also in the United States, meaning they're subject to the jurisdiction of the laws of the United States. They're currently breaking said law within the jurisdiction of the United States. That's just cause. We're also affording them the right of due process. Got to do that, no matter if you're a citizen or not. That's what the Constitution say. Let's focus on that. Let's focus on that. You're also afforded the right to a speedy trial. Let's focus on that. I think if we focus more on that and not this MAGA maniac, quick releasing drug shit, we'll be okay as a country. Because then it'll be more of an emphasis on law and order. Trump ain't got no emphasis on law and order. Trump got an emphasis on impulse. Giving you dumbasses a quick fix. Because you no longer care about the laws and principles of this country. I told you, there's no difference between a lefty loony and a MAGA maniac. The lines have been blurred, folks. They've been blurred. Lefty loonies don't give a fuck about the Constitution. MAGA maniacs don't give a fuck about the Constitution. None of them. I hate to see a person like Clarence Thomas placate to that shit. I hate to see it. But in this moment, it is what it is. But with that being said, hey man, I'm dog shit tired. It's about to be 12 o'clock. I just wanted to come on and, like I said, give a quick synopsis on what I thought about Justice Clarence Thomas' dissent on this birthright citizenship case on today. But yeah, man, it and like I said, razor thin margins, 5-4. 5-4. You know, many people argue it's 6-3 based on Kavanaugh's opinion. You know what I'm saying? Because I mean, Kavanaugh was kind of like in the middle with the shit. So that's where we at, man. Let me go and get up out of here. I found out what was wrong. So yeah, my fuse was blowing. I bought some more fuses. I put the new fuse in on my charger, but it still wasn't working. I got a short in my fucking charger, but I finagled it to fix it. So for now, at least it's a go for Thursday. We're gonna be talking about DSA on Thursday. And speaking of DSA, another socialist won tonight. Another socialist won tonight. Shout out to Jesse. Won in District 1 in Colorado in Denver. Another DSA just won. They primary for Congress. Hey, man, we might be in trouble, y'all. We might be cooked. We might be cooked, man. I might just have to shut the fuck up and fall in line, man, with the hammer and the sickle. I might just have to shut up and fall in line, man, before I get mentally refreshed or some shit like that, bro. So, yeah, another DSA won tonight. for another congressional seat, taking out the incumbent. I think they said that incumbent been in Congress for like over 20 years. I'm like, oh man, we fucked. And when I say we, I'm talking about the moderates. You know what I'm saying? I ain't calling myself a Democrat. I ain't calling myself a Republican either, but I'm, for the sake of the time that we live in right now, I am moderate. I just got to face fact. I'm moderate. I'm moderate as hell, you know? So, yeah, man, we might be fucked up, y'all. We might be fucked up. Ain't nothing getting passed in Congress next session. Nothing. DSA gonna be like, man, hey, man, you don't put this shit in about Palestine, we thwarting all legislation. Fuck what you're talking about. We might be in a whole situation like the Republicans was in. Ain't nothing getting passed. So yeah, man, we might have to fall in line with the hammer and the sickle, y'all. We might have to fall in line and just become socialists. Might not have a choice. Might not have a choice, man. So, hey, with that being said, again, man, I hope y'all enjoyed this little quick overview of Justice Thomas' dissent. Like I said, a lot of the stuff he talking about in here, I wasn't really expecting. I thought he was gonna get in his bag. He really didn't, to be honest with you. I agree with a lot of the things that he said. I agree with a lot of things that he said in here, but with the whole running theme being domicile, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that at all. I mean, I just got to be honest. I thought Clarence Thomas was going to go harder than that. I thought he was going to go harder than that. I just did. I'm sitting here skimming through it. Yeah, I mean, like I said, the running theme is domicile. You just said it again. The running theme is domicile, and I just don't agree with that. That shouldn't be the running theme. Yeah, the lefty loonies here to stay, Ricardo. They here to stay, bro. I gotta accept it. I gotta accept it, man. I ain't got a choice. I ain't got a choice, man. But yeah, let me get up out of here, man, so I can get myself together before I go to sleep. I'll see y'all Thursday, man. If anything pop up tomorrow, I may talk about it, man. I gotta see what the talking heads are going. They probably gonna be discussing this race in Colorado tomorrow. So I may pop up with a live tomorrow. But yeah, Vancat gonna have a field day with me on Thursday, man. He gonna have a field day with me, man. But hey, we'll work it out. We'll work it out. Hey, with that, I say peace, y'all.